Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Karate Ramblings. I'm Kieran McKenzie,
And I'm Brian Bates.
and welcome back for another episode. Now, I think today we wanted to talk a little bit about sparring. Yeah, very, very broad subject there, so bear with us for a minute. Brian, I suppose when you kick us off, what in your words are sparring? Is sparring rather?
Yeah, it's a consensual exchange between two people of trained techniques, I guess.
Hmm.
But there are many ways you can spar. Like you said, it's a very broad subject, but it's a consensual exchange, I would say,
Hmm.
of techniques. So it depends what
Yeah.
you're training as to how you're going to spar, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you are there to train and test and improve certain levels of skill. I mean, one thing that I think a lot of people get confused on is that sparring is not a fight. That they're two different matters.
Correct. Yeah. Actually, yeah, fighting is if you're we're still talking consensual, but yeah, if you're competing, it's very different to sparring. Sparring is to improve your skill set, isn't it?
Hmm.
And it should be, well, in my opinion, it should be like so. That's something else we can chat about later. You see some people going hell for leather.
Hmm.
I
Nah,
don't see any skill development in that at all, really.
there's
And
no
then
benefit.
yeah. So and then you get the flip side of the coin where people don't make contact either.
Oh yeah.
So you've got kind of no contact sparring. So it's a fine line, but it's got to be about skill development rather than just having a brawl. And like you
Hmm.
say, it's very different to competing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is in anything you do in the dojo, you're meant to do it and then leave safely. I mean, people get a little knock, people might take a bruise, but no one's meant to be leaving with like their with a concussion or they're feeling dizzy or going to the hospital later and finding out that they've got CTE.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. I mean, and the older I'm getting now, the more I'm thinking about longevity in my training. So
Mm.
yeah, so there's even the other day I was thinking about this because I'm carrying a knee injury now, and the other week just warming up, skipping with a skipping rope, my calf popped. So and I think the knee injury has come as a consequence of the calf injury. But yeah,
Mm.
and it made me think a lot more about longevity. Yeah, we should be really training to avoid injuries, but still trying to develop skill
Yeah,
set. So
absolutely. I mean, the thing is, and something that Sensei Mal from Kudo in Wales taught us quite well was that, you can take the shots on the head, you can take the taps, I mean, because you can trust your partner. And that is a big thing, trust. You're meant to
mm,
be in training and you're meant to be trusting the person that's with you. So if I could just ramble for a minute, hence the name of the
yeah,
podcast. I've been in and out of a couple of different Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms. Now, one thing that's interesting because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in my experience, has been marketed a lot more towards adults. A lot adults who are more likely to see the UFC fights, like, oh, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is something that works. It's a legit art, etc., etc. So they go and train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But something that I found was quite interesting and very different from like the culture in karate is that at any point in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, people can say, sorry, I don't want to spar with you. So I've asked people, would you like to
okay,
roll? And they've said, no,
yeah,
thank you. Because they don't know me, I was brand new, they didn't know how I work, so they had no trust in me. And because,
yeah.
it being a more adult environment, it's more the idea of like consensual yes or no kind of thing.
Yeah, I kind of get that, but without sparring with you, how do they know what you like? I guess I think the injuries I've had are from beginners. So,
Mm,
not all of them, but yeah, I guess there is more of a risk of getting an injury from a beginner. And I
mm,
took quite a bad neck injury last year when I was training combatives, and that was from somebody who was relatively new. He was a bit of a hulk of a guy. He was probably about 6'3" and 17 stone, and just the technique that we've done, he was just a bit clumsy with it. So I can see the point with that. But then again, how is a beginner supposed to learn and train and advance if they
mm.
if they can't spar with people?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you've got the one side of, oh, people just drop them in the deep end and like you're sparring from day one. I mean, that's not necessarily a deep end, but I think sparring is something that has to be included gradually, if that makes
yeah,
sense. You can't just give them their people to show up on day one with the right gloves, the right gum shield, and say, okay, here's your sparring partner, play guys, without actually showing them how to punch, how to kick, how to receive punches and kicks. I mean, it goes to the idea also of like one for one or three for threes, almost a little bit like the old karate 1 and 3 step, but except you do it with your gloves and your kicks.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right there, though. With yeah, it's drilling techniques. Teaching them how to defend as well. So you just sort of mentioned like punching, kicking, and all those sorts of things. But yeah, defending, parrying, slipping, a bit of body movement, footwork. So all
Mm,
those things could be drilled before you get sparring. But I think you could get somebody sparring. Well, we do on their first lesson, but it depends again what level you're looking at. Right? So
mm,
we could just do just hands only. If you drilled it at the start of the session or before the sparring, that you've drilled a couple of parries and maybe a bit slipping, then it can just be hands only, and they'll put that into their sparring. So it can be done
mm.
safely, and it can be done early. But I think for a beginner, it's very daunting to like just throw some gloves on, throw a gum shield, and say, right, we're going to spar. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that also goes to the idea of trust. I mean, the beginner expects the people who have got their belts on, the different colored belts, people who have been there for a while, wearing their gis, to be a bit better at this than them. So they expect to be taken care of in this environment as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so I'm going to change the subject. We're still talking
Yeah.
sparring, but you said at the start that we perhaps talk about the different types of sparring that we do.
Yeah.
'Cause we
So
do
we've got a
a
very, yeah,
variety, yeah, quite a wide, a big
yeah.
broad set of sparring. So okay, so we'll list some of the type we do, and we can sort of talk about
Mm,
our favourites, which we prefer, and which we maybe need to work a bit more on, and some of the pitfalls, some of
mm.
the pros and cons of the different types. So we do kickboxing type sparring
Yeah, that's
with
probably the most
yeah,
common.
yeah, which we do a fair bit, and we differentiate. We did this the last session actually was what we'd call karate sparring, which is
Mm,
akin to, I'm going to put a label on it, akin to Kyokushin. It's not Kyokushin, but it's akin to, because when we
mm,
get into a clinch, where we're sort of throwing light elbows and doing takedowns. So we do
mm.
our groundwork would be more about getting back to our feet. We don't. I suppose the person on top is just trying to pin. We're not really looking for submissions.
Mm.
But yeah, the person on the floor is just trying to get back to their feet. We do just a takedown, kind of like stand up grappling with takedowns.
Mhm.
So probably four different types, would we say, or maybe
Yeah,
more.
yeah, I'd say give or take that's 4 different types. I mean,
And then sometimes we combine the whole lot, don't we?
yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So what would you say is your favourite out of all of those? Then do you think?
Honestly, if I had to pick one, if you told me I could only do one of these from now on, it would be our karate sparring with small gloves. I mean, the thing is,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so we've got elements of Kyokushin in there, but we've also got some throwing elements, a little bit of judo in there as well, some different grappling and or yeah, and things like that because it's very much more all in. I mean, the shots you can give are decent enough that obviously you're not going to hurt your partner. They're light enough they're not going to hurt, but they're not also they're not heavy enough that they're going to hurt, but they're also not light enough to remind your partner, okay, you're in danger if you're going to be here because I've
Mm,
now grabbed your lapel and now punching you in the stomach. Do something, grip up or disengage, that kind of thing. So that's my favorite. But then the thing is, because with small gloves, and we talk about this a fair bit with to head injury, it with smaller gloves, sometimes it can be a bit harder to control the distance to your head. I mean, I see a lot in forums online about people talking about, if you're gonna spar with head punches, you need big gloves. everyone's like, don't be that guy who comes to training and tries to punch someone with small gloves. No,
Yeah,
bring your boxing.
yeah. But I quite liked. I mean, again, I suppose that was akin to Kyokushin, but we just did it just body sparring
Mm,
the other day when we did that with the smaller gloves. But I think with the smaller gloves, it allows for grappling. It allows
mm,
for gripping. I think head contact, controlled head contact, is important because you should be learning to. If you there is a difference between consensual and non-consensual
mm,
violence, but both. If you look at non-consensual, generally people headhunt. So to be able to move your head in an exchange and to be able to defend your head is very important, I think.
mm.
But I do like just the body sparring because it's conditioning as well, isn't it? It toughens you up
Absolutely.
mentally
Mm,
and physically. I would say that's probably my favourite type as well, to kind of sparring.
mm,
So when we go body sparring with everything included, so we'll throw the takedowns into it. Um, and if you get a takedown, and the objective of the person on the floor is to get back to the feet. So that would be my
mm.
favourite kind.
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely. Now, the least favorite I'd say is probably the pinning sparring because work with me on this. It's good and it develops skills, but the thing is the world of groundwork is ridiculously big and vast. I mean, in sport and in non-consensual as well. So it just feels like, okay, do have a good objective, but the objective is to disengage. And I don't know if it's just my time in combat sports. I like I like the ground wrestling a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you out of the people in the club, I'll say you move around on the floor better because you have had that experience doing it. Um, I think there's a danger with groundwork, and again, it just depends on your objectives and what you're doing.
Mm,
So because we do we have a sport element to what we do, and we have a self protection element to what we do as well. And I suppose it's drawing the line and knowing which one you're training at the time and knowing the
yeah.
difference between the two. So that's why for me when we're doing this in the club, it's the objective is to get back to your feet, so it doesn't muddy the waters with self protection.
Of
Because I
course.
think a lot of people have put groundwork into their karate, and it's great because you shouldn't be a beginner at these things. But I think a lot of people have put groundwork into the karate, and they're looking at submissions on the floor, and they're looking at fighting on the floor. But if you're looking
Mm,
at self protection, the longer you're on the floor for, the bigger the danger. So it's a case you do really want to be getting back to your feet quick. That's why I
mm.
prefer it that way. And I don't know, this is going off at a little tangent, but if you've ever seen Glimmer, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right,
Lima.
but it's the
Is that
Viking martial art. Yeah, and
yeah.
it's Viking wrestling basically, and their objective. Anybody's listening to this, go and look it up. Glimmer, Glima, and it's their objective is to throw their opponent on the floor but disengage immediately. And the idea of that is that you've both got weapons. So if you end up on the floor, your partner, if they're still holding onto you, they can access their weapon and start hacking away at you. So I think I really like that, and that's why I kind of shoehorned it into our sparring. That
Mm.
kind of that mindset of getting back to your feet.
Yeah,
But yeah, staying on the
absolutely. I
floor, I
mean,
think it's a dangerous
mm.
game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very dangerous game, and from a non-consensual standpoint, absolutely, the method of just like trying to, reverse a pin, get back to your feet without them trying to grapple after your ankles, kind of thing. They're literally ankle biting and trying to get away. It's an effective way to remind people, get off the floor, especially. And this is something that I always find, especially in my judo training as well. When you're with someone who's bigger than you, you're always at a disadvantage, especially on the ground, because they don't even have to try very hard. All they'd have to do is just relax, and then you're crushed.
Don't give you any gaps. Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, I'm not taking it away from the guys that do this because watching jiu-jitsu tournaments, BJJ or judo, these guys are really, really skilled at what they do.
Oh,
So it is,
yeah.
and it's a great sport and it's a great art. So I'm not taking away from them, but it's just not for me personally, for my
Mm,
objectives in my training.
mm,
Um, so also, so let's flip from that then. So that was our karate type sparring, yeah. So our body contact. So we
Yep.
and this kind of where we do our crossover with consensual and non-consensual, but we do stand up grappling. So
Mm,
with our stand up grappling, so we're not. The idea is not to disengage as such, although in self protection that would be your objective to disengage to create space. Um, but we tend to, again, it's like elbows, knees, and takedowns. So when I see a lot of people doing stand up clinch sparring, people tend to call it, I don't see as many takedowns as I'd like to. When I see people doing
mm,
that, it's mostly elbows and knees, and you might get some shovel hooks to the body and cuts and stuff like that, which you can all
mm.
find within like clinch sparring. But yeah, I think the takedowns is a massive part of clinch sparring. I think,
Absolutely.
uh,
Yeah, no,
and it should be
absolutely. I
done.
mean, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. We like akinning it to like randori, like in judo as well, because it is the whole idea of trying to you're in that clinch, you're in that messy zone. Realistically, you don't want to stand there wrestling for ages. You want to find a way to end it quickly. And the thing is, when you know the right pathways, when you know the right angles, you can do it quite quickly. But the unfortunate thing is when I think might just be a human response. Every single time someone they grab a position, or they grab a wrist, or they grab around the neck, or they grab a lapel, or they grab an arm, they hold it for dear life and don't let go.
Yeah,
I mean, they need to break that idea and find a way to flow to either finish the technique, or if it's not working, they need to have the be able to let go of it's not really an ego thing, but be able to let go of what they thought was working and do something else,
yeah,
to flow
yeah.
through.
That's like branching to different techniques or bridging up to a
Mm,
different technique. But again, I think sometimes we just like to remind the students that stand up grappling is fun and it's good. But again, because we have a self protection style on our training, we sometimes give both or just one of the students a weapon so that they can access mid fight. And that's always
mm.
good fun. And then there's the urgency, like you said, the urgency to end it quick. So if somebody accesses a knife halfway through your stand up clinching, you can't stand there for forever.
Yeah,
you've got to finish that. You've got to
a-
finish that quick, and that's where the
absolutely.
takedown skills come in, isn't it?
Mm.
Um,
But yeah, that comes from like understanding things like Kazushi and the right grips, and then also just knowing the throws. I mean, the thing is, when you teach, like, I don't know, a hip throw to someone, you just taught them many ways to do it. They just don't know like the right foot positioning for different ways. I mean, you know, there's different avenues and ways to go about doing it. I mean, it's a principle. You duck in under, you get low, and you just lift them up. You can do it with both your hips. You can do it with one hip. You can just pick them up a little bit and just push them away, kind of thing. But yeah, what was I saying a second ago? I've completely forgotten. Either or, but yeah, it does come down to knowledge. But oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, back to like the war of attrition on grips. I mean, it also comes from like a combat sports background. Is okay, if you've got several rounds or several fights in a tournament, the more time you spend trying to grip and wrestle and trying to muscle people away, the more tired you're going to get. And especially in a non-consensual manner, everything's going at 100% faster than your brain can actually process sometimes. So, heart going, tunnel vision, adrenaline, etc. So, yeah, you want to be able to find a way to get it done like that.
yeah, I mean, that's what I say. Throwing a weapon in now and again that does trigger that urgency. It's just like, right, we've got to get this done quick. But yeah, so it is. It would say we tend to cross the streams a lot, though, don't we? I would say because I think when we started this conversation, we was talking about sparring. But yeah, like I say, we're throwing weapons in and sometimes multiples. So even though we're sparring, we're crossing the streams to consensual
Mm,
and non-consensual. But yeah, like I say, yeah, for the majority, excuse me, the majority of stand-up clinch sparring that I see, I definitely like to see a bit more takedowns in
mm,
that in that sense. And let's say we do so often if we're doing that as one of our rounds later on when we do our sparring in the club, we'll tend to drill a couple of takedowns during the class, and then so we can try and get them in sparring. So that's the
Mm,
idea. You know? So you're training a technique to hopefully put it off later in sparring.
absolutely. And just to add on to that, not just the techniques that day, but if the techniques we done the week before, for example,
Yeah,
if you find a way to successfully pull that off, by all means. I mean, the thing is, you can't limit your toolbox to just a couple of things. If you only did three throws in the class and you've got an option for another throw,
yeah, of
but
course. Yeah.
use it. It's an
If
option.
it's
It's in your
if it
toolbox.
presents itself, of course. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So the other one that we've done a lot of recently is kickboxing type
Hmm.
sparring. I say we're not really a kickboxing club, but it's a fun way to spar. You know, just to get the big gloves on, the shin guards. And recently you've started kickboxing and Muay Thai, haven't
Yeah.
you? So yeah, and we've got some people who've done it in the past in the club, so it's a good way to spar. I do
Hmm.
enjoy it, and it blows off a lot of steam, doesn't it? So
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, so I started a K1 class with my girlfriend at the start of this year. It's been going great. I mean, one thing that I like about it is because it really helps me brush up on techniques, but also helps remind me of like other concepts. So for example, like I don't know, punches come in bunches or punch punch kick, creating room, distancing, that kind of thing. And
mm,
also, it ends up being like a really good pad holding session as well. I haven't sparred that much there, to be honest, but to be fair, I'm not really in a rush. I mean, I've done like one or a couple of sessions where I have sparred with them, but the thing is, I would rather, I'd rather, you know, hold pads with my girlfriend who also doesn't know anyone there, but
yeah,
also it's time for me to, step back and just do more observation, note taking, and learning as opposed to just trying to rush in and have a fight night. I mean, don't the thing and sparring there is it also varies. I mean, the people who are, I don't know, going for the competitions because they do go for a fair few. They're sparring at quite a high level, I reckon. But
yeah,
it's a big mixture. I mean, you got some really big people in there as well. So yeah, no, it's a fun class. But yeah, I've from my other experience, I've done other kickboxing and MMA and a bit and kudo as well. So from that, I've been able to implement in our usual kickboxing sparring, and I think it's been going great.
yeah, yeah. I enjoy it. Certainly it's a good cardio session, and it blows off a lot of steam.
Mm,
And if well, to be honest, any type of sparring that we do in the class, you always go home feeling great because I think that's well, it's kind of the end product of your training, isn't it? You know, so
mm,
whatever you've done during the class, you should be. I was talking to somebody else about this recently about how when you train kata and then you fight, they don't look the same. Well, we can
mm,
we can make those work. We make our kata look the same as our fighting, or our
mm,
fighting look the same as kata. But yeah, I mean, with the various different types of sparring we do, it's not always okay. So kickboxing will look nothing like kata.
mm.
But yeah, so when we're doing our clinch sparring, that tends to, um, so it's yeah, like I say, I enjoy it. It's a good workout, good cardio session. Um,
Absolutely. And it's good skill development, but it's also it reminds people, okay, you can remember we're not hitting you hard. It goes back to the trust thing. We're not hitting you hard. You trust me, I trust you. We can do these techniques together and we can help build up our skills together. It's not if people want to go for higher kicks, if people want to, I was thinking the other day, I got people doing a couple of rounds of just legs only. I mean, they could use their hands to help parry, catch, or move off kick catches, but legs only, and it also that helps people remind them, okay, there are these combinations and flows that they can do just by kicking.
hmm, yeah. So another um, sort of variation of sparring, say sparring, we use the term loosely, I suppose. We with our groundwork that we do in the class is probably where we have the least experience.
Mm,
Because and I think the way we used to start it was both parties would be on their knees and
mm,
they'd be trying to take your partner to the ground and then pin them. And like I say, the objective was to get back to the feet. So I do enjoy it, but it's where we've got the least skill set. So we know a few positions on the ground. Well, I know a few positions on the ground that I can get up from. So it'd be like scarf hold, side control, and mount. So there's the main three kind of positions that we tend to work from to get back to our feet. I mean, imagine there's that many more. If it was a pin, and if you're fighting somebody unskilled, which is like our main objective, they're not going to get a perfect scarf hold or a perfect side control.
Yeah.
A lot of people have seen a mount, because a lot of people would have seen that in MMA, perhaps. But
Mm.
and again, if somebody's not great with their mount, it should be easy to turn around. But that's where our least, well, certainly for me, is the least skill set is. But we sort of changed it from two people kneeling to do the takedown. And that was after training with Mal, again, to bring up Mal, because there's been a bit of an influence on our sparring.
Mm-hmm.
Was passing the guard and pinning your partner that way. So I really like that way of starting it. So if you're starting on your back, your objective is to get to your feet, and the person who's passing the guard, the objective was to pin. And when we did this with Mal, he was, strikes were allowed as well, and that really changes the game, doesn't it, to groundwork?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's a great way of doing it because, okay, say for example, you've just been, I don't know, you've been pushed or caught off guard, and now all of a sudden you're on your back. Your main objective is to A, find your opponent, get a bit of a barrier between you and them. So that's putting your legs up and stopping them kicking their shins or whatever from coming closer, and working from there. So yeah, absolutely, it works very well, and that is, yeah, throwing in strikes changes the game 1,000% because instead of trying to, get close and close space, you're looking to secure space. And well, what does Tommy say?
Yeah, create space and fill it with violence. And I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think if you're the person on your back, it helps as well, because that throwing in a few strikes will create some space. Somebody's not so inclined to be pinning you so tightly if they're getting punched in the head. And again, we're doing this with control. It's not like and it's the person on top is to realise, okay, I'm getting punched in the head, because it's like contact. So you would be able to take that. It's not like it's going to end, it's going to ruin your day, but it's enough of a contact to make you think, okay, I need to stop. So you perhaps cover, or you change position so you're not getting punched. So I think,
Yeah.
it's definitely a good addition to it.
Absolutely. I mean, this is also the thing where people like leveling up both skill sets. So there's always like seems to be two main branches in martial arts. There's the grapplers and there's the strikers, and there's the going round and round about what's better. Well, what's better is like knowing both. If
Yeah,
you find yourself on the ground and you can grapple, great. I'm sure you might be able to get yourself out. But if someone starts hitting you and you don't know how to deal with strikes, then you're kind of in deep water there.
mm, yeah, definitely. Yes, I think it's important, because unless that is what you do, which is just grappling on the floor. If you're taking it outside, it's going to have some strikes in it. So it's important, I think, to throw that training into your training.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and then because I can see the clock ticking now, then the last thing that we do is we can throw them all together, can't we? We throw all the ranges together,
Yeah.
um, and then fight from that. So, and that's probably one that we do least, to be fair, is to throw them all
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, I mean, we should do a bit more of it. I mean, our so-called karate sparring is close to being all of it. The only thing we don't two things we don't include are headshots, which we can do with control, and groundwork. But the problem is, the moment it goes to ground, it's like, okay, we both want to be the good guy. We both want to be the one that gets up. So it's like, oh, we get taken to the ground. We'll both get up, but then fights
Yeah,
don't always go that way. So
yeah,
it's hard to say, okay, if the you could go with the way of saying, oh, the person that did the throw is now the aggressor, so they got to try and
yeah,
pin the other one that gets up. But it is a
yeah.
little bit of a difficult one there.
Setting your rule set before the game starts, such. So
Mm.
yeah. So yeah, with the clock ticking, I'd say just the pros quickly, pros and cons. We can do pros and cons of sparring.
Which
Um,
ones? All of them.
all of any sparring at all. We've got a few minutes left, so
Yeah.
I definitely think pros is you, I don't know if pressure testing is the right word, but you are testing your skill
Okay.
set that you've been training. So it's definitely something you should be doing. And if your dojo's not sparring, I perhaps question why not. It's
Mm,
definitely something you should be doing, and we do it every session. We set aside time at the end of the class. We do at least just sort of 50 in a hour and a half class. Anything from 15 minutes to half an hour is
mm,
just and the other part of the class is drilling techniques to throw into your sparring as well. So
yeah.
it all sort of ties in.
Mm,
So yeah.
absolutely.
Any other pros?
Any other pros? It gives you a chance. The thing is, this is something that also is a pro when it comes to holding pads. But you mentioned earlier, like it's a great stress reliever. It makes you feel like you've come here, you've had a uh, bit of a scrap, a little bit of a rumble around, and you feel like, okay, I did this right, I did this right, I did this right. You can see that your skills work. You can see that you've improved from before, and you're able to use your own athleticism, your own mind to figure out what problem you're faced with, be it a grapple or be it someone with their gloves up and they're going for your face, and you're able to overcome it.
Yeah, so it's sort of like you say, stress relief, probably good for your mental health. I would say certainly good for mine anyway.
Absolutely. Mm,
Um, yeah, cons. I don't know. I suppose it depends who you're sparring with.
mm,
What club you're at. So if you
yes.
find yourself in a club that you're going home with a headache at the end of sparring, you're probably in a bad place. So that could be a
Mm,
con if you're in a bad dojo or a bad club. So somewhere to avoid. If sparring's too heavy, and if you feel uncomfortable doing it, you know, you should be because people can get thrown into sparring not knowing anything, not knowing how to spar, and then they're getting battered and they don't enjoy it. So, you want to find a club that's sort of first of all encouraging it, teaching techniques before you start, um, and sparring at your level, really. Not going outside your comfort zone. You should be on the edge of it a lot of the time, I think, but not outside of it too often. You do need to be outside with more experience.
mm.
It's somewhere you should go outside your comfort zone, but that's probably tournaments then, isn't it? Really, getting
Yeah,
outside your comfort zone.
yeah. Or
But
sparring with more people, sparring in different clubs, that kind of thing. More
yeah,
variety as well. So yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, sparring doesn't really have, apart from what you just said, if you go to the bad place, but it doesn't really have any cons for me. I mean, I would say, okay, this is the only one I can think of, is that you are at a little bit more risk of getting an injury because
yeah,
it's a little bit more, not chaotic, but it's more random. You don't quite know what the other
yeah,
person's going to do, apart from they're gonna punch, kick, or grapple you or throw you. But then it's which one are they going to throw kind of thing. So and that can cause injuries. I mean, I had an injury on my leg from a couple of months back from a like a knee clash on my shin. You mentioned earlier your neck as well.
yeah, yeah. I mean, well, I'm old, so everything. Probably easy to list what doesn't hurt at the moment. But yeah, I think that I suppose that would be the biggest con with it. Yeah, the risk of injury. But
Yeah.
it's a combat sport. You're learning to fight, so um,
Mm.
you know, at my age, you could just injure yourself putting your socks on in the morning. Just put your back out.
Just don't wear
People,
socks. Don't wear
yeah,
socks. But if you put those
but
Crocs
wear
on, no,
Crocs.
no, 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 no. This is not an advertisement for Crocs. If we get sponsored by them, I will consider it. But no, 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 no,
Yes,
no.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So
Well,
we've tried. So yeah, time running out now. So yes, it's been a good discussion that one. It was good. It was good. Good to talk about
yeah, I
different levels of
enjoyed that
sparring.
too.
So yeah, obviously like and subscribe to this. You can follow me on any of my channels, like my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, on TikTok. Brian
Tic
Bates
tac.
Dancing Karate. TikTok. Look at that mince now. Yeah,
Mm,
Brian Bates Dancing Karate, and then yourself.
mm. You can find me at Mackenzie Karate. That's on YouTube. That's YouTube and Instagram. Don't do Facebook, but yeah, if you need to find me, by all means, drop a like, drop a follow. I'm more than happy for any kind of discussion as long as it's friendly. So, yeah, I think that'll about do it.
Awesome. Us
All
till the
right,
next time.
us.